Last week there was a fire at a warehouse in Ontario, California. One of you wanted me to have a look at this, so that's what I'm doing. Not only is this event staged, but when it's decoded, it reveals a hidden message about what's to come and provides guidance on how to prepare yourself. First of all, if you're not familiar with my work, I decode films, TV shows, and news events to reveal the hidden one story that lies beneath everything, including your own life. When you know how to read the code of the universe, you stop getting pulled into the surface level story and start seeing the symbols and synchronicities you're usually too close to notice. If that interests you, subscribe. If you're already deep into my content, join my website as a free member for more. And if you're serious about knowing your own story, there are several ways to work with me. Now on with the show. What I want to first address are some of the more superficial layers of this story. The dominant topic is that the rise against the elite has started. 100% agree. But it's deeper than that. This is being compared to Luigi Mangione and his attack on the elite, which I decoded, and it is an astounding decode. It's available on my website. It is highly revealing about the game that we're in and the path to exit. That too is a fake event. This is a fake event. And what I mean by fake is it is a production. It is a movie. It's not real. This is not a real revolution. It is a televised revolution. This is orchestrated. That aside, we have protests going on in Ireland. Vehicles parked in the road in protest against the high gas prices. We have Italy refusing to go to work and refusing to make purchases. We had Iran rise up against their government and allegedly get slaughtered in the process, leading to this war, leading to this fuel issue. These are orchestrated events, all of them. They might appear to be organic. There might even involve regular people in protests, for example, because it's such a large-scale event. But the organizing bodies behind it is the government. During COVID, I broke down what it takes to orchestrate any type of protest on a large scale, even on a small scale. Consider how difficult it is for you to organize a night out with your friends. Now, put that on a large scale. Consider how difficult it would be for you to organize a protest, to get people to rise up against the government, to stop going to work, to abandon their vehicles. All of this is orchestrated to provoke us into the real rebellion, because we need reassurance that it's safe to move. We need others to go before us before we move. So many people are complaining about the cost of living right now. So many people are complaining that they don't want to pay taxes. They don't want to go to work. They don't want to pay for groceries. They don't want to XYZ. They don't want to do them. They don't want to do these things, but they don't take any action towards not doing them. And all they have to do is not do them. But they're waiting for permission to not do them because they're not brave enough. They don't know that it's safe on the other side. There's very few people who have taken that leap to leave their jobs and not have a job and risk being homeless, risk being thrown out. But they're doing it because they know it's the right thing to do. They just can't continue to go like this. They can't continue to live like this. And it's understandable because we've been indoctrinated into believing that slavery is not being paid. But this is the real slavery. Slavery is being paid. You have to go there every day, 5 days a week, for the majority of your day, to give your soul to this company, your spiritual energy to this company, your valuable energy, your gold, your inner gold is given to a company you don't give a shit about, given to a job you don't give a shit about. You have to find ways to convince yourself that it's okay. Find ways to convince yourself that you love going to this job because you're expending your life force on something you don't care about and you know it's wrong. And then there's all these people who've been brainwashed into corporate America and taxes and being a good citizen. They are the jail keepers. They believe so strongly in the infrastructure that they bought into that you can't even talk to them about an alternative because, oh no, that's communism. Oh no, that's laziness. Oh no, that's horrible. That's evil. Don't do that. You are a traitor to your country because you refuse to pay taxes. You're going to get caught. You're going to go to jail. They are so brainwashed that they will defend their jailer to the death. So here we are. We're at the breaking point, which finally, this should break people. This should encourage people to take initiative in their own lives to leave their slave jobs, leave their slave lives, because that's what this is for. Most people are seeing it from the us versus them mentality, where the elite are doing this to us and we're the victims in this situation and we're suffering. That's all true. Yeah, the elite are doing this to us. We are the victims in this situation and we are suffering. The gas prices are atrocious. Food prices are atrocious. We're priced out of the housing market. We can't find jobs. The economy is a disaster. But you got to think for a moment, why are they doing this? And the default response for most people, because they hate the elite, they see them as evil Epsteiners. The Epstein elite is what they're being called now. This Epstein guy, I tell you, everything has been put on Jeffrey Epstein. He is like the devil incarnate. If anything evil has happened, they just lump it into Epstein. So everybody hates the elite. And when you see things through that lens, it makes you powerless because you feel like they have total control, you have no control. The only way to win is by rising up against them. But this is the physical solution for anybody who is outraged, angered, suffering in the 3D zone, the 3D level. This will be their response. Violence, war, uprising, rebellion, revolution, because they can't think beyond that layer. But what this is calling for us to do is to rise internally and take control of our own reality, because this stuff's going to trigger you. It's going to anger you. You're going to feel like you need to do something or somebody needs to do something. They need to be held accountable. None of that's happening. None of that's ever going to happen. Who's going to hold the people who are jailing you responsible? It's all a mind game. This is all about the duality, the us versus them, the elite versus the plebes, the workers, the slaves, the Igigi, in the Anunnaki story, the Igigi uprise. Well, that's the stage of the story that we're in right now. We're coming to awaken to the true nature of our reality. We're coming to awaken to our hostage situation, and the Igigi rebel and they attack their controllers, and then the world is destroyed. So we're getting to that stage right about now. You can choose to stay in the 3D perspective and continue to make the elite your enemy, or you can move past that stage and see what's really going on here and back out of it, detach from this illusion, this movie. It's just a movie on your TV. Yes, there are real consequences in your life in terms of the prices and everything and the job situation, but that's what you have to deal with. And the reason that this is happening is to force us to look within, to force us to recognize the corrupt nature of our 3D external reality, to force us to recognize the power that the elite have over us, the power that the government has over us, and the fact that it is corrupt, and the fact that we have no one to turn to, so that we can turn to ourselves, but also unite with those around us. But you can't do that as long as you look at the elite as your enemy. You can't do that if you believe it's an us versus them situation. The reason they're doing this is to help us rise. It's to help us awaken. And it has to happen this way because you're so ingrained in your stupor, in your sleep, in your spell, that this is the only way it's going to wake you up. Up to this point, you were happy as a pig in shit, plodding along in your mundane life, believing that this is what life is supposed to be, going to a job 40 hours a week. When is enough enough? When are you going to recognize that this is not normal? They literally shut down the world. They shut down the entire world in 2020, and it didn't come to a grinding halt. That should tell you something. That should tell you your job doesn't mean anything. You're not running anything. You're not doing anything. Your job is a joke. It's fake. And you're here crying and begging the elite to protect your jobs, to pay you a living wage, begging them, blaming them, going to burn down warehouses in protest. This would happen if you paid us a living wage. And now you're begging them to pay you more money? How does that work? How are you going to get the elite that you're attacking, that you hate, that you know control you, and you're asking them to pay you more money out of their pocket when it is against their own interests? The point of all of this isn't for you to go begging them for more money, for fairness, for them to put in a proper system, to implement communism or socialism, or make sure everybody gets access to health care, make sure everybody gets access to daycare or retirement funds, or gets better wages, or prices come down. The point of all this is to tear down the entire system. The point of all this is to start a new world. And here is where the conspiracy mindset enters and says, oh, well, then they're going to put in the New World Order. Yeah, they are. But that's the whole point. The whole point is to put in the New World Order. But it isn't what you think. Well, it can be what you think. It can be if you're still walking around thinking that the elite are going to solve your problems for you. If you're still walking around thinking the government and your vote is going to matter. If you turn around and realize that you are the one who has the power, that it's up to you to take your power back, and it's up to you to determine for yourself what kind of life you want to live and start living it, then none of this matters, because then they have no power over you. So let's take a look at this thing and see what we find.
There goes your inventory.
He's burning toilet paper, and we saw this in 2020. I decoded 2020 in multiple videos at the time, and toilet paper is TP. So TP is the sign of the Cairo. It's the Christos. And so T is the cross, and P is the row, the head out of the box. So you got to think out of the box, because the box represents cubed consciousness. So he's setting fire to it. Fire is the phoenix. And this happened when? It was around April 10th, around the time when they returned from their trip around the moon, allegedly. So it's to obscure that nonsense.
This new video into our newsroom could be a critical piece of evidence in the fire that destroyed a warehouse in Ontario.
Ontario means beautiful lake or big body of water.
It took 175 firefighters nearly 15 hours to put this fire out. Yesterday,
This looks very strange to me, that this warehouse burned like this. And a lot of people said, well, what happened to the sprinklers? I find it hard to believe that a warehouse like this that's stocked full of paper products doesn't have a fire system, and that the interior would burn like this and the outer wall remains. It seems strange to me. I don't know what this building is made of. I don't know what the structure looked like before the fire or anything like that. It's just strange to me. And that's part of the reason why I say this is fake. It's staged. It's not CGI. It's a legit fire, but it's staged. I don't think it was full of paper products. I don't think there was anything in there. Maybe they had a few to make it look like paper products were in there. I don't believe that they actually burned down the contents of a warehouse to the tune of $500 million.
The contractor is now facing several arson charges.
Arson means malicious burning of property, to burn, to glow.
NBC4's Christian Caceres has the very latest on the investigation.
Tonight.
Now, back in 2020, there were a slew of videos that came out with testimonies and all sorts of stuff. 99% of them were vertical frame videos. And that's not to say that all vertical frame videos are fake, but most fake videos are vertical frame. For this reason, because it narrows the perspective. You can't see very much. So it forces you to focus only on what they want you to see. Also, the quality of this video is like 144p. We have 4K on our phones now. What is with this video quality? Any fake video is always this crappy quality video.
New video on social media has surfaced of what appears to be inside a warehouse.
Notice he says of what appears to be inside of a warehouse. Well, it's either inside the warehouse or it's not. Why would you choose to say that it appears to be inside of the warehouse? Unless they know that it isn't inside of a warehouse, and they have to say appears to be because it actually isn't inside of a warehouse. This is another indicator that this is a fake staged bullshit story. It said long lasting on the toilet paper products. So that's LL. L is the 12th letter of the alphabet, so that's 33. 33 is Christ consciousness. When you look up the etymology, long means having a great linear extent. And lasting is also a reference to time.
One is going around the room starting several fires while talking about their salary.
All you had to do was pay us enough to live.
I don't know. I don't know what's going through his head, man.
We have here a witness, and he's wearing checkerboard pants. The checkerboard is symbolic of the duality. So they're interviewing this guy, and he's smiling. He's lost his job, and the whole place that he used to work at just burned down, but he's smiling. Notice how his shirt looks brand new and freshly pressed. I'm kind of surprised because most dudes do not wear freshly pressed t-shirts. They pull it out of the laundry, it's barely clean, and it's always wrinkled. Same with the shorts. But you notice these people who get interviewed and everything looks brand new, freshly pressed. That's a indicator of it being staged because they have hired people as crisis actors to be interviewed.
We caught up with Alex Montero on Wednesday, who says he was working the night this Kimberly-Clark warehouse along Hellman in Ontario caught fire.
So it's a Kimberly-Clark warehouse. Kimberly means meadow of the royal fortress, and Clark means scribe, clerk, or scholar. It was on Hellman in Ontario. Hellman means bright, clear, or intelligent man.
Fire. Montero is stunned to see this video because this person, he says, is his fellow co-worker, Shamil Abdul Karim.
There goes your inventory.
Inventory is a list of what is found, to find, discover, ascertain.
I had just got done talking to him. He had just came over and helped me out with my truck. I was 5 doors down from him.
Fire officials say the fire started on Tuesday just after midnight.
Happened on Tuesday, which is Mars Day, which is war. And it happened at 12:30, which will be mentioned in another video. 12:30 is 33, CC, Christ consciousness.
And quickly grew because of the large amount of paper products inside the warehouse that fueled the flames.
All right, guys.
They called break, and I went outside, I was sitting in my car, and not even 10 minutes go by, and I heard the alarm.
It took crews several hours to get the fire under control, even using drones to extinguish the hot spots after all 20 employees inside were evacuated. Moments later, Ontario police arrested Abdul Karim for arson. And tonight, Kimberly-Clark says the distribution center was operated by a third-party logistic partner, NFI Industries.
Okay, so this was a distribution center, and it was operated by third-party logistics partner NFI Industries. Distribution is the act of dividing or parceling out. To divide, deal out in portions. So the warehouse was NFI Industries, but the products were Kimberly-Clark. As I understand it, this dude who set fire to the products was employed by NFI Industries.
And added that a response team has been activated to help relocate impacted workers and minimize customer and consumer impact.
Kimberly-Clark activated a response team to manage the situation and minimize customer and consumer impact. It's so detached. So what this translates to is Kimberly-Clark is the new story, and it has activated or intensified a response or answer team, which is a family or descendant, to manage, train, or direct a horse, the situation, which is a place or house, and minimize customer, which is a practitioner, someone who practices, and consumer, who uses up goods, impact, which is pressure, strike.
How long have you been working there with the company?
About 3 weeks. Yeah. Just started making good money, dude. You know, they called us hoping to relocate us to another warehouse.
He's been working there 3 weeks. 3 weeks, and he says just started making good money. So I don't know if he's doing a different job than the other dude, but he was working with that other guy. He knew who he was. Look at him. Perfectly happy. How is it possible? How is it possible that this guy thinks he was making good money, but the other guy was disgruntled enough about the low pay to set fire to the place? Make it make sense. This has come up before, where they interviewed people who had just started working at the company that was affected in the news, meaning they were brought on specifically to be interviewed to give the illusion that they worked there.
That fire raged for several hours, tearing through the 1 million square foot building. Officials believe that was set intentionally. KTLA's Chip Yost is live in Ontario with more information. Hi, Chip.
This is a warehouse for Kimberly-Clark. They are a company you might not know by name, but you definitely probably know some of their products and have used some of their products. As we tell you about that, let's take a look at some video from earlier. This was an intense fire, in part because of what was inside that warehouse. Kimberly-Clark owns brands like Kleenex and Scott paper towels. So this warehouse, this 1.2 million square foot warehouse was full of paper products like that. We don't know exactly what was in there, but we know Kimberly-Clark owns Kleenex. They own Scott paper towels, Cottonelle toilet paper. So those kinds of products, just think how quickly they can go up, and they went up very quickly according to firefighters. They got a call here. This is on Hellman Avenue here in Ontario. They got a call here to this warehouse at around 12:30 this morning. When they got here, they initially thought it was maybe a small isolated fire and that the sprinklers would help them get it under control. They quickly realized it wasn't the case. There was fire spread out through the whole warehouse, so they had to retreat outside of the warehouse, get firefighters out of there. Now this is some of the assistance they've been getting. Look at this. This is a robotic firefighting tool from the LA City Fire Department. They've had more than 140 firefighters on this from multiple departments. LA City sent that robot firefighting device you see there over to help out. Here's more on how that.
Why on earth are they focusing on this robotic firefighting tool when the real issue of this entire event that none of these news outlets are focusing on is the fact that this is a fire started by a disgruntled employee over inadequate wages? None of the news outlets even elaborate on that. They mention that that's why he did it, but they don't talk about how frustrating it is for people who are not getting paid enough, about the increase in prices, the gas prices. They don't talk about any of that. They don't talk about why someone might be driven to this point. I find that very strange. It's like robots are running the show. They don't think beyond, Oh, somebody burned down a warehouse. We should report on it. Look at the number of firefighters. Look at this cool gizmo that helps fight fires. This happened at 12:30. It happened at this place. It burned down all these paper products. You may not know about Kimberly-Clark. Let me tell you who they are and what kind of paper products they have. They don't tell you anything about the guy. They don't tell you anything about why he did it. They don't get into his story. They don't even interview him. I mean, how out of tune can you be? It's just crazy, this shallow level of reporting. And it's also very one-sided. The fact that they were talking about the paper products way more than they talked about the disgruntled employee who set this on fire. They didn't even get into why it's an important issue. You would think that an investigative journalist would be all over this story.
140 firefighters on this from multiple departments. LA City sent that robot firefighting device you see there over to help out. Here's more on how that thing could help.
It is a fire suppression resource that we can send into a dangerous area where it is not safe to deploy a firefighter to make a better, more pinpoint attack on the seat of the fire.
He's using military language, and he's a firefighter. Deploy, attack. It's kind of strange, but why do we don't care? We don't care about this nifty little toy you have to help fight fires. Why is this the focus of the story? We don't care.
Inside of the structure, again, to where we can't place a firefighter in danger.
In summary, this fire started when a disgruntled employee set light to toilet paper. Toilet paper is TP, the Cairo. The fire is the Phoenix. Died to the physical and you're resurrected. It's also long lasting, which represents linear time. You have to exit the time loop. Kimberly means meadow of royal fortress. Clark means scribe, which is to write. So this is the new story. The fire was contained within the wall like a fortress, but I think this means to burn down the old world so the new world can be created or written as you desire. It happened on April 7th, which is 11, at 12:30, which is 33. There were 175 firefighters, which reduces to 13. 13 is Christ or a fucus. Kundalini, Christ, will put out the fire. 15 hours to put the fire out. 15 is the Devil Tarot card. It's also the letter O, the Ouroboros, the time loop. So this was arson, which is malicious burning of property, particularly malicious. The property represents the identity, anything you are attached to, the material world. Christ consciousness requires confrontation of the shadow before you can transform. The awakened force, which is 13, meets bondage or attachment, which is 15. This is similar to Luke Skywalker fighting Darth Vader. You have to release your attachments and you have to exit the time loop. So this is confronting Saturn or Satan, the Grim Reaper, the gatekeeper, who is blocking the passageway or the door to your new world, your new identity. It's like at the end of the Truman Show when he's at the top of the stairs and Christoph talks to him and tries to convince him to stay. Are you sure you want to leave? So what are you going to do? There were no sprinklers. The sprinkler system represents the internal regulation system that puts out the fire. So this is why the firefighters had to retreat from the inside to fight from the outside. It's also why they needed a robot to fight the fire. The sprinkler is your regulated nervous system. If it's switched off or doesn't work, if your nervous system isn't regulated, you can't handle the transformation. So the system can't buffer what's happening internally. So your only option is to respond externally. So you try to fix what's going on by fighting the external. Hellman is the intelligent man. He's bright and clear, so he's illuminated. You will become enlightened. Ontario is a big body of water or beautiful water. Water is emotion, is consciousness. The fire is in the water in Ontario. Or you could see it that the fire is caused by the rise of consciousness. The man who set fire to the toilet paper said, "There goes your inventory." Inventory is a list of what's found, to find, discover. It's your identity, your attachments, the things we identify with that separate or divide. It's the separation, the distribution center. The distribution center is about dividing or dealing out in portions. So the wording with the Kimberly-Clark statement was bizarre. And what they said was Kimberly-Clark has activated a response team to manage the situation and minimize customer and consumer impact. A consumer is one who uses up goods like inventory. Customer is one who buys. Kimberly-Clark symbolizes writing the new story or a better life. So the new story is ramping up its answer to people who are still in the old mind story so that it wakes them up in the gentlest way possible. The fire was started over inadequate pay. He said all you had to do was pay us enough to live. The pay is restrained, so the life force is suppressed. There's a block in energy flow, which leads to eruption. There was a lot of fuss made about this robot firefighter, and some of the things that were said were very strange. So let's look at it. The fire suppression resource that we can send into a dangerous area where it is not safe to deploy a firefighter to make a better, more pinpoint attack on the seat of the fire, inside the structure to where we can't place a firefighter. Those were the exact words that the firefighter said about this robot. The robot slave is the programmed self, or the unawakened person. The seat of the fire would be the pineal. The pinpoint attack would be attacking the pineal. So the man is replaced by the machine, or the spirit is suppressed by the unconscious programmed mind. Dangerous area is where the fire is burning off the inventory of the old self. When awakening begins to burn away the old identity, the programmed self resists. Instead of surrendering to the transformation, the unconscious conditioning attacks the very center of perception to keep the old self or old story alive. He also said inside the structure to where we can't place a firefighter, so the structure is the constructed self, ego, or the old world. The real awareness stays outside, which is why the firefighters were pushed outside. Awareness cannot enter while the structure remains intact. The ego, which is why they send the robot. So essentially what they're saying is we are going through a process of burning off the old world, the old mind, and if you do not regulate your nervous system or have your internal system prepared, then you will not handle the transformation, and you will attack externally, you will handle it externally, and in order to make it past the gatekeeper, Chronos, Saturn, time, you have to burn off the ego, you have to let go of your attachments to the physical, your attachments to time, and then you will rewrite the old story into a new story and live in the Kimberly-Clark. But also, if you do not, your unconscious programmed mind is going to react to the process, and the story that is arising, the unconscious that's becoming conscious, will make sure that those people go through the transformation in the kindest way possible. I don't know what that means, so don't interpret that to mean anything bad. It's a loving process, whatever the process is. So you pick your path.